today, we're going to dive into the absolutely epic story of the Cordova people and their homeland, Kodagu. We're talking 2,000 years of history here, a story of survival, of building a kingdom, and of incredible achievement. So let's get into it and see what makes this legacy just so powerful. Okay, so our story starts way back, deep in the misty hills of the Western Ghats. This is a land the Kodava people have called home, well, forever, for as long as anyone can remember. And you've got to understand, this isn't just a location on a map. It's this deep ancestral connection, an unbreakable bond between a people and their land that has shaped everything about who they are. All right, so here's the roadmap for our journey today. We'll start with their ancient origins, then see how they forged their own kingdom. We'll dive into a serious fight for survival, see how they adapted under the British Raj, and finally celebrate a modern legacy of just, wow, pure excellence. So let's kick things off with our first chapter, which is all about one thing: endurance. See, long before they had their own kingdom, the Kodavas were living in the shadow of the massive, powerful empires. Now, what's just wild about this is the sheer scale of time we're looking at. For more than 1,000 years, you had dynasties rising and falling. The Gangas, the Kadambas, the Hoysalas, you name it. They all claim to have ruled Kodagu, with Kodavas as vassals of the land.
During the 16th century, many leaders called as Padebiras like Kaliyatanda Ponnappa, Bhotalanda Manicha, Maletira Micha, and others led and guided the Kodavas spiritually and martially.
But through all of that, the Kodavas were still there. They held on. They kept their unique culture, and they were basically just waiting for their moment, right there on their own land. And that moment? Well, it finally came in the 17th century. This is where things get really interesting, because this is the era where the Kodavas go from being subjects to being sovereigns, building the very foundations of their own independent kingdom. It all kicks off in 1610, with the reign of the King Veera Raja commencing. In 1633, with the new king, Mudaraja I, takes over, and he gets to work building the strategic Madikeri fort. Then, by 1681, that fort becomes the heart of their new capital. And get this, by 1736, they even have their own currency, which lasted for 3 decades. In 1760, Kannanda Dordya defeated Hyder Ali for the 3rd time. I mean, these weren't just small moves, they were huge statements of independence and strength. So the bottom line is this: after centuries of being ruled by other people, the Kodavas had finally carved out their very own kingdom. That independence, it was about to face the ultimate test. We're now entering the most dramatic, the most brutal period in Kodava history. It was truly a trial by fire. On one side, you have the small but fiercely independent Kodagu kingdom. They're masters of their own territory, using clever guerrilla tactics. And on the other side, the massive Sultanate of Mysore, under Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan, a huge expansionist power with a giant army dead set on taking their land. And this story, wow, it just perfectly captures their spirit. Just try to picture this. Only 3,000 Kodava soldiers, led by a commander named Kulatira Ponnanna, holding back the entire army of Hyder Ali for almost a month. They didn't just fight, they completely outsmarted and outlasted a much bigger force. It was an incredible display of sheer guts. But this war came at a terrible cost. This year, 1785, it marks the Devati Parambu massacre, a horrific event under Tipu Sultan's command that just devastated the Kodava population. It was, without a doubt, the darkest moment in their fight to survive. And yet, even from that darkness, their resilience just shone through. Only a few years later, they rescued their prince from captivity. They started this systematic campaign, destroying the forts that Tipu had built on their land. And then, by 1790, against all odds, they had kicked the Sultan's forces out and taken back their kingdom. An amazing comeback. So, the 19th century brings another massive shift. The time of kings was coming to an end, and a whole new era under the British Raj was beginning. And this period wasn't about war. It was all about adaptation and huge, profound change. So, the big turning point is 1834. This is when the Kodagu kingdom officially ends. The last king is out, and Kodagu, now called Coorg, is brought under the administration of the British Empire. A whole chapter of their independence had just closed, but a new one was just beginning. And the Kodavas, they adapted fast. They embraced the opportunities. Formal education introduced almost right away.
Big infrastructure projects like the bridge over the river Kaveri connected them to the rest of the world. The first coffee estate popped up, totally changing their economy. And, this is so important, they created their own education endowment fund, investing directly in the community's future. And that investment did a payoff. All that history, all that resilience and adaptation, it created this unbelievable legacy of excellence and service to the modern nation of India. And that's what we're going to look at in our final section. You see, that ancient warrior heritage, the one forged defending their homeland, it found a new purpose, serving the nation. And you can't find a better example than Field Marshal K.M. Karyappa, who became the very first Indian Commander-in-Chief of the Indian Army, a true national icon. In that exact same year, 1949, the Kodava spirit for breaking new ground showed up in a totally different field. Chonira Belliyappa Muttamma didn't just break barriers, she shattered them, becoming India's first woman in the foreign service, and later its first woman ambassador, a genuine trailblazer in diplomacy. In 1956, the state of Coorg, which had enjoyed full statehood in independent India, was merged into the then Mysore state, bringing an end to its separate political identity. During this brief but significant period of statehood, Cheppudira M. Punacha served as the first and only chief minister of Coorg, before going on to become the first Kodava to serve as a Union Minister of India, continuing his service to the nation at the highest level. In 1950, Subedar Nadikerianda Bhimaya became the first Kodava to receive the Veer Chakra for gallantry in action, marking the community's early and distinguished contribution to independent India's armed forces. The legacy of national service continued in 1953, when
Kodandara Madappa Karyappa
was appointed India's High Commissioner to Australia, taking Kodava representation to the highest levels of diplomacy. Further honor came in 1973, when the Government of India conferred the Padma Shri on Kumari Kodanda Rohini Poovaya, recognizing her outstanding contributions and reflecting the growing impact of Kodavas across diverse fields of national life. In 1980, Maneyapanda Somaya stood on the highest podium you can imagine, winning an Olympic gold medal with the Indian hockey team. What a moment of national pride. And their influence reached the absolute highest levels of modern government. In 2019, Justice Ajji Kuttira Bhopanna was appointed to the Supreme Court of India. I mean, it shows a profound impact on the nation's justice system, kind of echoing the kingdom building of their ancestors. In 2003, Joshna Chinnappa rose to national prominence, later making history in 2019 by becoming the first Indian to win the prestigious British Squash Championship title, marking a landmark achievement for Indian sport on the global stage. That same year,
Puggera M. Devaya
became the first Indian economist to be nominated to the top 8 Global Council of the Asia-Pacific region by the Financial Times UK, reflecting Kodava excellence in international economic leadership. And in 2022,
the Cordova community once again demonstrated its extraordinary unity and cultural strength by creating a world record for the largest family gathering at the Okkuta in Bitangala, achieved under the initiative of Kodava clan, powerfully symbolizing the enduring bonds of clan, lineage, and collective identity that continue to define the Kodava people. In 2024, Rohan Bopanna reached the absolute peak of his sport, becoming the world #1 ranked tennis player and getting one of India's highest honors, the Padma Shri. And finally, this one brings our whole story full circle.
Aimudiyanda Rani Machaya
Received the Padma Shri not for war, not for sports, but for preserving the Kodava folklore. It just goes to show that the very cultural roots that fueled this incredible journey are still so deeply cherished and celebrated today. So when you look at the whole arc, from survivors of ancient empires to creators of their own kingdom, from warriors fighting for their very existence to leaders building a modern nation, the journey of the Kodavas is just extraordinary. It really leaves us with one last thing to think about. What is it exactly that defines this remarkable spirit of resilience and excellence?
Over 2,000 years of memory, resilience, and tradition. This is the Kodava timeline, where history becomes identity. Discover the full journey at timeline.kodavaclan.com.